We'll take any questions, curriculum, labs, any resources that we provide, and so on. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Raja Iqbal. I am the Chief Data Scientist and one of the lead instructors at Data Science Dojo. I'm going to go over the Large Language Models Bootcamp and pretty much any questions that we have around the bootcamp, what you will learn, what is expected, what the bootcamp is about, and what the bootcamp is not about, and so on. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So we are one of the oldest and one of the most, I would say, established and respected players in this space. We have been around for quite some time, have done a lot of enterprise trainings. A lot of companies are, more than 3,000 global companies on our portfolio. We have been doing this for quite some time. But we have been known primarily, as the name suggests, Data Science Dojo. So we started off as a data science company. And about a year and a half ago, we started doing our Large Language Models Bootcamp. And we have had quite a lot of graduates from our Large Language Models Bootcamp as well. And this info session is primarily about the Large Language Bootcamp. So how did the bootcamp actually start? So it goes back to about 2 years ago when we started helping companies. We have a consulting arm, and we have a solutions arm of the company as well. We started, as Gen AI started becoming more popular, ChatGPT, and large language models in general, when they started becoming mainstream, companies, naturally, they wanted to build large language model applications. So initially, we started with some very basic conversational agents. And then very quickly, we realized, as the use cases started becoming more complex, that this is the whole business of building a large language model application. It is actually quite non-trivial. Going and asking a question and using ChatGPT, it is very different when you actually start building an enterprise application, something that you will be using internally, something that you will be using in your own enterprise setting, because there are actually a lot of issues that you will run into when you start building an enterprise application. From our experience, maybe I can give some context. We started with some services and solutions that we were providing, and then we ended up building a product. And we have now a product that many companies have adopted internally. And and I'm not talking about some small companies. I'm talking about some big companies, $50, $100 billion revenue companies, that are actually using a platform that we have built. They build their own application, their own agents, using a platform that we have built. And then what we realized over time is it takes actually a lot more than just knowing the basic, the AI piece of it. For instance, when you start building an LLM application, there are going to be challenges around data privacy and security. Broadly, let's call it data and AI governance. You have proprietary data, you have PII, you have you have healthcare data that is sitting there. You have email addresses. You have some proprietary data. You don't want your employees to go and use ChatGPT and upload anything that may have business implications. In addition to data and AI governance, there are other problems. Should you use open source models or closed source models? How do you handle hallucinations? Maybe you are in a regulated industry. How do you control hallucinations? Or how do you accept the fact that, well, the models may sometimes hallucinate? How do you prevent? How do you put guardrails on top of it? How do you actually connect your large language model application to different kinds of data sources? How do you get your LLMs to reason and break down the problem? How do you build a multi-agent system? And once you have built everything, how do you set up your evaluations, evals, and also uh, how do you actually make sure that your model, after changes in prompts, or rather how your application or LLM application after changing of prompts, or any data changing, or any using a different model, how do you ensure that your performance, the model's performance, is not degrading? There are a lot of issues, and that actually resulted, from out of that realization that that everyone should learn these best practices that we have learned over the last 2 years. We decided that we are going to do a boot camp. The boot camp is actually a 40-hour, 5-day, 40-hour training. It can be done. It can be in person. It can be online. The same training. The people who are attending in person, they will be in our facility, in the training facility in Seattle. The people who are attending online, they can be based wherever they are, and they connect remotely. And what we take pride in is that the curriculum has been designed by practitioners. It is not something, it's not some fluff that you will see actually a lot of math or a lot of jargon and all of that. The boot camp is designed by practitioners to turn all of you into practitioners. So it is with that in mind, that it is with the intent in mind that anyone who attends this 40-hour training, they will start and they'll go all the way to the end. And without, after the boot camp, they will be able to go and build LLM applications. So we cover most of the mainstream tools and libraries and packages. Very hands-on bootcamp. I will show you the curriculum in a moment. I will also show you the hands-on exercises, how we have structured them. And on the last day of the training, we have a project. Everyone gets to build their own LLM application and then deploy it in the cloud. And then we have some exercises, of basically what we have learned over the first 4 days. We go and implement those in practice. We also have a partnership with the University of New Mexico in terms of the certification. And what it does is it makes us eligible for your L&D budget. So if you're working for a company that has your annual L&D budget, we have many people. They have many attendees. They have attended trainings using their L&D budget. So if you are in doubt, if you work for a company that has that's a budget that is eligible, if you have some learning and development budget that you can spend toward courses, since we are delivering this training in partnership with an accredited university, you may be able to actually attend this bootcamp for free. So please reach out to us if you have any questions about that. In terms of the infrastructure, bring your laptop. Everything else we take care of this. If you need a GPU cloud for model fine tuning, we take care of that for you. We'll give you the GPU cluster. The LLM token consumption costs, we give you the API keys, so you don't have to go and spend or slide your own credit card and be billed. We have a complete infrastructure for actually getting the job done. Okay, so let me go up for the next boot camp. So we are partnering with many companies who are at the leading edge, cutting edge of LLM. For the Seattle boot camp that is happening in February, These are the companies. VV8 is a leading vector database in industry, Neo4j. Many of you would know. They are also now venturing into the LLM space. LangChain, Union, and so on. So these are our partners who provide necessary tools and necessary expertise for making it, a high quality experience for all of you. We have guest talks from real industry leaders who will be telling you how they actually build real world systems. And then I think I will go and walk you through the curriculum. So this is our Large Language Models Bootcamp. If you look at this at a very high level, we talk about the entire stack. If you're on the left rail, when you see on the learning platform, you can see that there is a variety of topics that we are covering. We start with embeddings. Actually, let me backtrack. We start with a very high-level end-to-end overview of how do you build a large language model application. Maybe I should actually show you this end-to-end architecture before I even go to that detail. So if you look at this here, so we are talking about, we first talk about the bigger picture. What are the various moving parts you need a large language model? Well, what is a large language model? You need to have prompts. Well, what are prompts? A vector database, you need embeddings, you need what is the difference between fine-tuning and RAG? What is RAG? What is fine-tuning? What is pre-training? Why do you need guardrails? So all of that, we set the context in the first 3 hours of the bootcamp, Monday, 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. to noon. We are going to teach you the end-to-end, the bigger picture of how do you build a large language model application. So in that, the entire bootcamp, we talk about, we'll talk about embeddings or LLMs and what kind of LLMs, you can take closed source hosted LLMs, or you can say take open source and you can deploy those LLMs on your own. We have exercises for both. Then we dive into quite a bit of detail of vector databases. Vector databases are crucial when you're building a retrieval-augmented generation, or simply known as RAG systems. We also talk about embeddings model. So what are the different embedding models? And, so first of all, understand embeddings in detail. And then we talk about, how do you use them? And now LLM caching, how do you log and monitor your models, the different kind of monitoring, how long it took, how long an LLM function call took, how did it reason, what was the back and forth communication with LLM, was a vector database hit or not, and then putting guardrails on top of it. So these are all different components that you are going to learn during the bootcamp. We also talk about actually LangChain in quite a bit of detail, and I will explain in a moment what LangChain is. So think of it as just more than a single, much more than a single, a module, right? So it's a complete end-to-end experience. So for instance, when we go to embedding and transformers and attention mechanism, we cover a lot in depth when it comes to, let me go and see here. So if you look at this, we start with, we don't assume any background. So a common question is, do you have to have a background in AI and machine learning ahead of time? Well, while it can be helpful, but you don't. And we start with very simple beginner level examples, and we slowly, incrementally, if you can see my screen, we talk about, well, how does a neural network work? How does a deep neural network work? And how does an LLM? And how is LLM similar to a deep neural network? My slides are actually taking time to load here. But you get the idea. And we eventually go all the way to attention mechanism and encoder-decoder architecture and so on. So we do this in quite a bit of detail. Then we have hands-on exercises. Then, for instance, when we go to vector databases, now that you understand what embeddings are, then you go to vector databases, and then you find out, okay, so what are you have embeddings. Where do you keep these embeddings? Well, you keep these embeddings in a vector database. Well, what is a vector database? So in that case, a vector database is, let me see, this is interesting. The slides actually, for some reason, are loading a bit slow. So if you look at this, well, how does a vector database work? And why do you need a vector database? How is vector database different from your traditional relational database? And then basically an intuitive understanding of what how a vector database works. Then different types of searches, a vector search, a keyword search, a hybrid search. How do you add filtering in your vector database? How do you index different indexing techniques like HNSW? We talk about that in detail. You can see that this is a very, very extensive understanding of how things work in a vector database. Once we are done with the vector database piece, the theory side of it, we also actually have exercises on the respective areas. So remember that this is a very, very hands-on bootcamp. It is not only slides, it is also some practice. So once we are done, we talked about vector search and keyword search and hybrid search and generative search and all of that, and vector compression, etc. We talk about all of them, and then we actually go and do these exercises in Python. So these are these are Jupyter notebooks, just like you would have locally. We have these in web browsers set up here. And now what we will do is we'll discuss. Here is we are creating a collection. Here is we are doing something else. We are searching for a vector. Once that is done, let me go to hybrid search, for instance, right? So if I click on hybrid search, now we have talked about this in theory. We come in and we talk about this in practice. And if you look at this, you connect with this vector database, then you create a collection. What is a collection? We talk about it. I mean, think of this as a table in a vector database, just like you have a SQL table, you have a collection in vector database. Then we are creating these embeddings from this file that we are reading. Then we are setting this up, showing you some hybrid search queries, and so on. So you can see that, and we spend about 2.5 to 3 hours on the theory side of it, another 2.5 to 3 hours on the practical side of it. We change the queries, see how the results change, and so on. So it's a very, very good detailed overview of what vector bases are. And not just at a very high level, we take it all the way to vector compression, all the way to semantic caching, some advanced concepts that will be needed when you're building an actual performant application. Vector compression, as the name might suggest, that you're compressing the vectors in a certain manner. The semantic caching is when you're caching the queries, so they are when you're building low latency systems. And then we go and talk about semantic search. We talk about building a RAG system, retrieval-augmented generation system. And it's not a very high level that, you have to have an embedding model, you have to have a vector database, and then a generation model. We talk about the smallest nuances and smallest challenges that you will have in building an LLM application. I mean, think about this, that very nuanced reasons, how going beyond just the basic things like how would you chunk your documents. We talk about things in a lot more detail, very nuanced type. I hope I have the slides here. Let me see if these are the correct slides. Yeah, and we talk about a lot of, if you look at this, we're talking about data quality, we are talking about chunking, we are talking about various chunking strategies, we are talking about, how do you do things at scale, and how do you handle pre-retrieval, how do you alter queries. We talk about query alteration and query optimization, step back prompting and query rewriting, and I can keep going. This itself is a very, very detailed session that, of course, I cannot, given the time that we have, we will not be able to actually finish all of it. We actually spend quite a lot of time on LangChain. LangChain, for those of you who may not be aware, LangChain is think of that as the entire plumbing of your LLM application. We start with the very basic idea. How do you connect your model to connect your application to different types of LLMs? Then let me actually go here. How do you connect your LLM to different types of models? How do you create prompt templates? How do you give it few short examples? And the way we have structured this is, let me click on only one of these. LangChain is about this is a very, very comprehensive overview of LangChain. We cover LangChain in about, I think it takes us about 7 to 8 hours just to finish only the LangChain component. And you can see that in this case, this is an example of a few short examples. And then we're pushing them into an in-memory vector database and so on. And we go line by line, understand it. And at this point, many people have this question, hey, would I be able to do it? I don't have a background in programming. Yes, you should be able to do it, because as long as, you don't have to be a coder, as long as you can read code, because all we do is these are pre-created code samples. If you are a dev, you can save, make changes, you can extend them to add more complicated concepts. But if you are just a technical PM, if you are just a project manager, if you don't write code actively, you want to get a very good understanding of how these things work without actually having to write code, you can still do it, because all you have to do here is hit run and hit run and hit run, and then you keep running these, and this is asking you for the API key. But we give you the API key, you plug it in here, and we discuss in class what this is doing. Once this is done, you go to a different lab. Once that is done, then we go to a different module. In LangChain, we are talking about retrieval. In retrieval, we do all these exercises. We talk about how do you connect to different vector data stores or vector stores. How do you connect it to different, how do you write different kind of retrievers? How do you connect them to different kind of data sources, Dropbox, SharePoint? How do you connect it to your Gmail and all of that? How do you load PDFs? How do you load a text file? How do you load a JSON? How do you split chunks and so on? Then we talk about chains, when you have to execute a series of functions or a series of LLM calls back to back. We learn it. We talk about memory. Memory, think of it as when you go to ChatGPT, when you ask one question, and if the next question is related to the previous question, how does the model know that the next question is related to the previous question? We also talk about multi-agent systems. We discuss LangGraph in detail, in depth. We talk about agentic applications. Let me go here. Maybe I can, not here, but here. Practical exercises here. So if you look at this, agents and tools, working with agents. Let me see what we have here. And once again, you have the code. We go through this. You are going to We are going to go and keep going all the way, enter the key, and you can see that right now I have two tools here. I'm using a search tool. I'm also using a calculator tool. But then we talk about even more agents. We talk about LangGraph, and when you talk about LangGraph is more of a collaboration. Basically, what we call the agentic systems. We talk about these agentic systems in a lot of detail, and we explain what is happening here and what is happening here. I'm very confident that by the end of this, pretty much, all attendees, they are very, very well versed in how LangChain works. Uh, then we go and we talk about fine tuning. We go through fine tuning in quite a lot of detail. All ideas. Why do you need fine tuning? Well, because you need the model to do well on out of distribution data, right? Well, how is it different from transfer learning? We talk about more numerical optimizations and efficiency, improving measures like quantization and low rank adaptation. We talk about LoRa quantization, QLoRa. We talk about challenges in fine tuning, like replaying data, and challenges like catastrophic forgetting and all of that. So we talk about all of those things, and then we go and give you a GPU cluster. We give you the sample code and some sample data set. All of us, we fine tune every attendee. The instructor actually launches this lab. Every attendee is in their own cluster. You go through this line by line. This is happening, and this is happening. And you compare the responses of an unfine-tuned model or the base model and compare the responses with a fine-tuned model. We spend a lot of time on evaluation. We talk about evaluation, different kind of evaluation metrics, different kind of we start with the language translation metrics and take them all the way to more RAG-related evaluation metrics like RAGAS, the context relevance, answer precision, answer faithfulness, and answer relevancy, and so on. What else? And more there's and then we have exercises for that as well. I think anytime I say that we are doing something, assume by default that there is an exercise. So if you look at this is the RAGAS exercise that we have. So RAGAS is a package that evaluates your large language model, or rather your RAG application. So if you look at this, we go through this line by line. We talk about these metrics. You can see that we are creating a prompt template. And by the time when people reach here on day 4, they are pretty well versed. And I actually enjoy teaching. I teach about 40% of the boot camp, and then we have other instructors as well along with myself. I enjoy it because by this time, the kind of questions, the quality of questions that start to happen, even from the so we have had people who did not have any background in machine learning at all, and they did very well, despite not having a machine learning background. You do not need to have a machine learning background to venture into LLM business. And you can see that now we are actually calculating the different metrics, what is faithfulness, relevancy, and recall and precision. We have already talked about this in our theory session, the slides, and now we are doing all of this in action. Then we have a session on setting up monitoring and guardrails, and then same drill, have an exercise, and then we also have a session on deploying your fine-tuned model as a service. So that's at a very high level what we do. And on the last day, we do a project. We have we put all of this together. Everything that we have learned, we put this together in a project. Once again, everyone goes ahead and deploys this model or deploys their own LLM application, and then they tweak the application, like adding chain, making it more agentic, and so on. Let me see here. We have, as I mentioned, there are no prerequisites. I mean, a working knowledge of Python programming would be helpful, but even if you don't know Python programming, we have some tutorials that can actually get you started with Python programming without much difficulty. This is roughly the technology stack that we use. You will learn a little bit of all of this that you see on the screen in different levels of where it belongs. I mean, LLM foundation models or large language models plus the embedding models, vector databases, and different tools. So this is our stack. I've already gone through this outline. So I'm not going to go through it bullet by bullet. We have talked about vector databases. I've talked about semantic search already, prompt engineering, fine-tuning, LangChain. LangChain actually is a very lengthy module. Monitoring and guardrails, I already mentioned that. Multi-agent application, advanced RAG, and evaluation. I've talked about all of this. And I've talked about the project as well. So this is on these are the people who are on our pool of instructors. So they have been presented at different time. I anticipate that for the next bootcamp, the next upcoming bootcamp, I will be, of course, there. But Luis, I expect him to be there. Adam, John, Sebastian, likely Jack, Sophie, and Sage should be there. And then we may get more instructors next time around. These are our testimonials from our partners. They love it. The fact that we have put together a very comprehensive bootcamp I would say hands down the most comprehensive training on this topic. With the intent in mind that you come in and you leave with an ability to actually build products. And one thing that I always call out here is that that if you come in as a product manager or a technical product manager, you will leave as a technical product manager who understands the finest details of the LLM products. When you're building if you were to lead or become a technical product manager for an LLM application, if you are a great dev, if you are a dev and you come in and you attend, you will be able to actually be a dev for an LLM application. But what we do not actually expect is that a product manager, program manager will come in and suddenly they will become a developer, right? So that's not, whatever role you are in, map the LLM application or generative AI domain. The people who attended, they have switched jobs. Those who were product managers, now they are, LLM product managers. So that transition is very likely one. And then those who were devs, and they went back and they started to become LLM application developers. But this cross, I would say, this transition from one role to another, I don't expect that. But anyone who is a PM, anyone who is a product manager, program manager, and project manager, they should be able to actually follow the content. Even the labs, the way we have structured this is you do not need to be a coder. We have had actually already the company, the logos that you see, we already have people from these companies who have attended our training, our LLM bootcamp training. Our data science bootcamp portfolio is much, much bigger, like more than 3,000 companies. This is a fairly new product that we are starting. So there are many companies and many companies, many people who have attended from different companies, and the list is, of course, growing. The next bootcamp is happening from February 3rd to 7th in Seattle. If you're not based in Seattle, and if you cannot travel to Seattle, The same bootcamp, it is going to be, you can attend it remotely, and we have a mechanism, we have tools in place that your experience is even attending remotely, it is going to be as good as people who are attending in person. But you can attend, you can join the same bootcamp even remotely as well. And let me actually stop sharing my screen here and bring everyone here and start answering questions. Let me, okay, there are, okay. So there is a question. Let me see the first question here. I will go in the order in which they arrived. I have an interest in building lava systems. I'm not sure what you you refer to here, Orisoto. Orisoto, if you can elaborate, I can come back and ask. I can answer this question. Will you be sharing PPT for? Yeah, I mean, we will be sharing it. I think someone should have already shared a link where you can request. We cannot send the deck to everyone. Of course, we don't want to spam you. But if you want, there should be, I mean, just reach out to us and we can share the deck. And then there is, let me see. There is other questions. Prerequisites, as I mentioned earlier, there are no prerequisites. It is as long as you can write basic code. You have just in any language. I mean, it may appear to be coding intensive. It may appear to be something that is very much coding heavy. But the nice thing is that everything is organized, so you can actually go through line by line and still be able to. So even if you don't intend to write code, you should still be able to. You should still be able to follow. Let me see which large language models we will be primarily covering. We please so the models that we cover, and we'll be covering some open source, some closed source. We do Llama series of models for fine tuning. For the most part, we for embeddings we use OpenAI embeddings. Occasionally, we use other embeddings, but in most cases, we are using the OpenAI embeddings, so you don't have to worry about the keys, etc. We will give you the keys. That's the technology stack. So in terms of embeddings, vector database, we mainly use VV8 for vector databases. But in our learning platform, we have more exercises for Redis, which they have a vector database, and Microsoft Azure Search. That also is there. So think of it this way. The ecosystem is still growing. Do we do LangChain or Llama Index? Well, we do LangChain primarily. But once you understand how to do things in LangChain, then you can go and build things in any other available open source tool. So our focus more is on imparting the skill, not specifically a specific vendor or a specific open source project. So we are focused more on developing the skill. So there's a question. I was a Java developer with 20 plus years of experience. Now I'm leading 2 projects. I want to learn LLM. So Shanti, not sure. Where can I start learning LLM? Yeah, so I think, Shanti, this is not only that this will teach you, this will also, the bootcamp, we also talk about what are the opportunities. We talk in a lot of detail about where the technology in general, what kind of applications are going to be there. So many people leave with these ideas and what they are going to build. So if you are a 20 plus years of experience, if you're leading projects, I would say that this is the place. Of course, depending upon it will depend upon your immediate near-term, long-term goal, because it's a substantial investment of time and money. But we are very confident that if you want to undertake an LLM and GenAI project within your company, this training will not only enable you if you have a clear idea what to build. This will also give you some ideas what you can build. Okay, let me see. So I see when will this or when bootcamp will organize in Nust. I am not sure. So Miriam, if you have a question, please reach out, and then we are happy to talk to you about if you're talking about a bootcamp in a specific location or a specific place. Let me see. Okay. So I think, are there any other questions? So there is another questions. Okay. So I have an interest in building a multimodal LLM system for a project that takes both text and image as input. Yeah. So we do not actually yet, until the last bootcamp, we did not do any multimodal. But for the next bootcamp, we are actually considering. I was actually talking to Sebastian, who teaches this module from Sebastian comes from BV8. It is one of the leading vector databases in industry. So I was talking to Sebastian, and then we may have something around multimodal, but I cannot actually promise, because getting something into the content, it takes quite a bit of effort. But I'm very, very hopeful that we will have something. But think about this: that's a very small portion of the bigger picture. Maybe it will be, even if it is there, it is going to be maybe half an hour or 1 hour of addition to the entire bootcamp. We are talking about the entire system. So whether you build a multimodal system or is it only an LLM without any image support, your application is not a multimodal, still you will need all these moving parts. You still need to understand embedding. You still need to understand vector databases in detail. You still need to understand LangChain. You still need to have guardrails. You still need to know fine tuning. So basically, the bootcamp is about enabling and empowering you. So even if there is this topic that we have not covered, you will still be able to go and build multimodal systems. So I'm quite confident about it. But we have not covered multimodal systems yet in the bootcamp. But I'm hoping that in the next offering between now until February, we will be able to. I think that also there is this limitation that the landscape is changing so quickly that we really have to keep up. Like every 6 weeks when we offer a new bootcamp, the next cohort that comes in, what we teach in previous cohort, that always we improve because something has changed in the industry. The good part is, whenever we introduce a new module, we invite our alumni who have attended the bootcamp, because the landscape is changing so quickly. So we have been introducing something new in the bootcamp for the last 8 or 9 bootcamps. Every single time the curriculum has improved so much. And anytime there is a new bootcamp that comes in, a new module that comes into the bootcamp, we invite the previous attendees to attend the session. Okay. I think I do not see any other questions. I will give it maybe another 30 seconds or so. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. If there are no questions, then we are going to end the session. Okay. Well, Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. We will be happy to get on a call and help you out.